The gate to their mansion shut behind me like I didn't belong. My hands were still slightly greasy from the car I'd just fixed, and the expensive perfume in the air almost made me feel like I'd walked into a museum instead of someone's home. They were all already seated. My fiancé's mom looked at her diamond-studded watch and then at me. Her lips pressed into a line. His dad didn't even bother standing up. I opened my mouth to explain, but all I said was, "Sorry I'm late." What I didn't say, that I stopped for a woman on the roadside, that her old car had smoke puffing out from the hood, that she looked scared and helpless, and like she hadn't had kindness in a long time. I saw her cane resting against the door. She was probably in her 70s. I could have kept driving. I almost did. But something told me to stop. I checked the engine. It was just a loose battery terminal. I fixed it in 5 minutes. 5 minutes that cost me an entire first impression. But in those 5 minutes, she smiled at me like I was the first good thing that happened to her all day. Now here I was, in a room full of rich people who couldn't care less. They had 3 imported cars in the driveway and more paintings on the wall than conversation. I sat down, feeling out of place. My fiancé tried to ease the tension, but his mother was laser-focused on my delay. She asked what held me up. I told the truth. There was a pause. Then she said, "So you risked this moment for a stranger?" I nodded. She looked at her husband, unimpressed. "Some people have different priorities," she said coldly. And just like that, the night changed. I realized I wasn't being welcomed. I was being measured. And I might have already failed their test. Dinner was awkward. The table was longer than some apartments. Everything was silver-plated. Even the salt shaker had more class than I did. They served courses I couldn't pronounce. I'd never felt more out of place in my life. His mother talked about their wine collection. His father talked about stock markets. I tried to nod in the right places. But my mind kept drifting to the old woman. I wondered if she made it home okay. I wondered if anyone was waiting for her. My fiancé squeezed my hand under the table. He knew I wasn't like them. That's why he loved me. At least I hoped so. Then his mom looked directly at me and said, "So what do you do?" "I'm a mechanic," I replied calmly. She blinked once. "A car mechanic?" "Yes, ma'am." Her silence said more than words. His father cleared his throat. "Honest work," he said vaguely. But it was clear they had expected something more upscale. Then she asked, "And do you see yourself staying a mechanic forever?" I could feel the trap in the question. I said, "I love fixing things. I like seeing something broken run again." She nodded slowly. Interesting. I'd never been more aware of my background. Of the dirt under my nails I scrubbed off. Of the second-hand watch I wore to look decent. His mother smiled, but not with her eyes. "Well," she said, "we all come from somewhere." I smiled back. "Yes, ma'am. And some of us don't forget it." Her expression didn't change. But her silence? It was loud. After dinner, I offered to help clean up. His mom looked shocked. "We have staff for that," she said. "I don't mind," I replied. She gave me a look. "That won't be necessary." I stepped outside for a breather. The garden lights made the lawn look like something out of a catalog. Perfect. Polished. Cold. My fiancé followed me. "You okay?" he asked. "I feel like a stain on their white carpet," I said. He laughed gently. "They're just traditional." "No, they're judgmental," I replied. He hesitated. "They're not bad people." "I never said they were. But they think I'm less." He looked down. "They'll come around." "Will they?" He didn't answer. Then I looked at him carefully. "And if they don't?" He didn't meet my eyes. That's when I realized this wasn't just about impressing his parents. It was about whether he'd choose me even if they didn't. We got in the car to head home. Silence. Then he said, "Maybe next time, don't stop. Don't stop for someone who needed help." I asked. "I just mean, timing matters." I stared at him. "She was stranded. It was 5 minutes." He shook his head. "Yeah, but you know my mom. First impressions." I sat back, stunned. "So you'd rather I act like them? Ignore someone in need just to be on time?" He didn't respond. That silence broke something in me. I realized I might love someone who didn't fully see me. I looked out the window, my heart heavy. Sometimes, kindness costs you more than you think, but it's still worth it. The next morning, I woke up to a text from his mom. No greeting. No thank you. Just, "If you want to be part of this family, you'll need to take life more seriously." I stared at it for a long time. More seriously? I run my own garage. I fix problems people can't fix themselves. I don't wear suits or drink aged wine, but I show up for people. Isn't that serious enough? But to her, serious meant status. Degrees, networks, golf clubs. Not heart. I didn't respond. Later that day, I got a knock at the shop. It was the old woman. She held a brown paper bag and a tiny folded note. "I didn't get to thank you properly," she said. I smiled. "You didn't have to." She handed me the bag. "You fixed more than my car yesterday." The note read, "Some people break down. Others stop to help. Never change." She didn't know what I was going through, but those words hit hard. Sometimes strangers see you more clearly than your own people. A week passed. I didn't hear from his parents. No check-ins. No invitations. Then my fiancé asked me to come to another family dinner. "Please," he said. "They're trying." Trying what? To reshape me? Or just tolerate me? Still, I went. Same mansion. Same long table. Same cold air. But this time, something was different. His mother looked at me, then placed an old photo frame in front of me. It was her. Younger. Standing beside a rusty old car. "That was my father's garage," she said quietly. I blinked. She continued, "He taught me how to change tires before I learned to read." I looked at her, confused. "Then I married into money," she said, "and forgot a lot of things." She paused. "When you told us you fixed that woman's car, I wasn't angry. I was reminded." Silence. "I just didn't want to admit it." Her voice cracked. "And I judged you unfairly." I didn't know what to say. Her voice had softened in a way I'd never heard before. "I judged you," she said again, "because I saw a version of myself I left behind." I nodded slowly. "You didn't have to tell me that." "I did," she said, "because you didn't deserve the cold shoulder. You deserved respect." Her husband stayed quiet, but he didn't look angry, just reflective. Then she added, "You didn't arrive late. You arrived with character." My fiancé looked surprised too. Maybe he didn't expect his mother to bend. She reached into her purse and pulled out a folded check. I raised my hand. "No, thank you," she smiled. "It's not charity. It's investment." "In what?" "In someone who still stops to help." I didn't take the check, but something shifted that night. The tension dropped. The conversation turned real. They asked about my work, my tools, my favorite jobs. His father asked if I could check the family Range Rover sometime. I laughed. "Sure, if you're okay with grease stains." They laughed too. It wasn't perfect, but it was progress. On the drive home, my fiancé looked at me differently. "You always do the right thing, even if it costs you," he said. "It's just who I am," I replied. He nodded. And it's why I love you. I smiled, but deep down I knew something else. If that moment with the old woman hadn't happened, I would have never known what kind of family I was really joining, or the kind of partner he'd be. Sometimes it takes breaking down to figure out what's real. A few months passed. We got engaged officially. Big ring. Bigger expectations. But this time, I didn't feel out of place. His mom started dropping by my garage, sometimes to talk, sometimes with coffee. She told me stories about her dad, the garage, the first car she helped fix. Her face would light up like she was 17 again. One day she said, "Thank you for reminding me who I was." I smiled. "You were never that far." Her husband came by too, grumbling about his vintage Mercedes. I helped. He paid, then stayed for chai. Little by little, things changed. Not because I tried to fit in, but because I stood my ground. The wedding day came. Everyone was dressed to perfection. Champagne flowed. Laughter echoed. Before walking down the aisle, his mother pulled me aside. She held both my hands. "I was wrong about you," she said. "You don't just fix cars. You fix people too." I held back tears. "I didn't come here to change your family," I said. "Just to be accepted." She smiled. "You did both." Then she leaned in and whispered, "Never stop pulling over for people who need help." I nodded. That day, I walked into a new life. Not because I became someone else, but because I stayed true to who I already was. And sometimes, that's enough.